and we're here to talk a bit about the university. So I've got a presentation to go through, and then if there's any specifics around any of our courses, we could certainly talk about those. But I thought what I'd do is give you a quick overview about Flinders. So if you could just move to the next page, that would be great. So 4 quick points that profile Flinders University. We're a world-class university. We're a leader in international student support. We've got integrated real-world learning, which is very important for students studying, especially practical programs like medicine and all of our allied health programs. And last but not least is innovation and enterprise. So we're ranked in the top 2% of universities worldwide, which is in the top 300 in the world. We rank in the top 300 in the world for over 12 different subject areas, and that includes medicine. We have a 5-star ranking for learning and teacher and student support. And we rank #1 in Australia for international student support. And this ranking here is based on the International Student Barometer rankings. What's really important is that whether you're studying medicine, whether you're studying any of our courses at all, that you're supported during your studies. And that's everything from picking you up from the airport, helping you find accommodation, making sure that you have all the aspects of your education there, supported by the university. As well as being ranked #1 in Australia for student support, we're also ranked #2 for social activities and #3 for arrival support services. We also have a ranking in the top #1 in the world for access to accommodation. And for those of you that are thinking of studying medicine, the university has on-campus accommodation, and I'll show you a bit of information about that in a second. That accommodation itself can also be allocated and reserved for our medical students, and that can be in either the dormitory or shared accommodation. We're ranked #1 for disability support services, and we're ranked #3 for international student welcoming services as well. So university is a very helpful and welcoming place. Real-world learning is key to our courses and programs. Across all of them, we have placements, internships, industry projects, mentoring, and that professional and soft development skills. Ahmad, thanks for your question there. For housing, what's the average cost? Let me get back to you on that. I'll talk to you a bit more about accommodation as we go through the slides. But just hold that question for 1 sec. The real-world learning component is really important because what it does is it ensures that you don't just get the theory and the research, you also get the practical components as well, so that you can develop those industry skills, develop your network of skills, and ensure that when you graduate, that you can actually prove to employers what you can do. Flip over a little bit. Oh, there we go. Back on. So real-world learning, especially as part of our medical programs, is obviously very relevant. We have our own on-campus private hospital, our own teaching hospital, the largest of any private hospital based in Adelaide. Innovation and enterprise is also key to Flinders University. So across all of our programs, you have the option to take innovation and enterprise topics. What we've done at Flinders is we've partnered with the Fox Business School at Temple University to develop a curriculum which allows students to be able to learn innovation, enterprise and entrepreneurship courses as part of their degree. This year we won the 2018 Benchmark Study UBI Top Challenger Award in the Asia Pacific region. And what that does is it shows that the university has the capacity and the potential to be able to turn ideas into reality. So it doesn't matter what course you're studying at Flinders, you have that option to be able to integrate your course program with our innovation and enterprise topics. I usually ask people to put their hand up, but we won't be able to see this given that it's a webinar. But if you have been to Australia, you'll know that it's quite a distance away from Canada. I flew this flight yesterday, so if I'm sounding a little bit tired, that's probably why. Takes a good 20 solid hours to get from Adelaide all the way through to Canada, whether you're in East or West Coast. Um, Adelaide itself is located right on the coast in South Australia, and we have a population of about 1.3 million people, so about double the size of Hamilton. Not as big as Vancouver or Toronto. This is a photo and an overall profile of our main campus. So for those of you that are going to be studying medicine, almost any of our courses, except for some of the engineering, postgraduate engineering, IT, computer science, those courses are taught at our Tonsley campus, but our main campus, which is on the screen at the moment, our Bedford Park campus, is where all the rest of our courses are taught. And you'll see in the image there's a H, that's where the main teaching hospital is. And then you'll see the image for Flinders Living, and that's where our accommodation options are. In front of you, we have the beach, so about 15 minutes drive, you find yourself right at one of many beaches. Adelaide has about 70 kilometres of coastline, all with beautiful beaches available for students to enjoy. The international airport's about 15 to 20 minutes away from campus. And just in the distance to the right, you'll see Marion, which is the largest shopping centre in the state as well. So Flinders campus, the main campus, Bedford Park, is positioned perfectly for students because a little bit outside the city centre, so you get that traditional traditional university experience, but also you have access to all that fantastic accommodation around there. So the question before was it by Ahmad was
how often do you encounter animals trying to kill you when you're going to campus? Probably not on your way to campus, but you will see animals on campus. Most of those won't kill you. I can be honest and can say that there are sometimes some snakes on campus, but very seldom will they try and kill you. You will see koalas definitely on campus. You may see the odd kangaroo bouncing around. As you can see, it's a big campus right in the foothills of Adelaide. Right in the centre of the campus, we do have our own sort of pine forest. So there are plenty of animals, wildlife, and various other things floating around. But be rest assured that you'll be safe on campus. So don't be too worried. Hopefully everyone can hear me and see me still and see the slides. Just to add a little bit further, so Bedford Park, which I was showing you before, is our main campus. And the photo on the top left is our new student hub, opened in 2016 at the cost of just over $60 million to the university. This is really the centre of everything that happens at Bedford Park. It's fantastic facilities. We have our own, coffee shops and food courts and various other things that help students obviously get settled and find food and all those sort of things on campus. So it's a great environment. We've got the beautiful lake in the middle of campus as well, and you can see at the bottom right there the photo of the bridge that goes straight through the pine forest down onto the Sturt section of Bedford Park, and that's where we teach all of our allied health, medical, and health science courses as well. Next slide, thanks. For those of you that are thinking you might want to study engineering, computer science, IT, like I mentioned before, we have a second campus, which is Tonsley campus, and that's only about 5 minutes drive from the Bedford Park campus, and this is where universities established a Centre for Innovation and Excellence. And I've mentioned before about NVI, the New Venture Institute. This is where the NVI is based as well. This campus was also opened in 2016. The cost of about $120 million to the university. So this is really an excellent location for students to really engage with some of the world-class facilities the university has on offer. Next slide, thanks guys. For those of you that might want to live in the CBD, right in the centre of the city, we do have a Victoria Square campus as well. We don't teach really any of our courses here except for postgraduate business and some of our public policy and public administration courses. This is specifically set up so the university has a presence in the city centre. So if you are living in town, right in the centre of town, then you can access the university's facilities there. Things like free internet, obviously study rooms. Just to add to the on-campus accommodation, you can see here that this gives you a little bit of shot of the dormitory style accommodation that we have available. That middle top photo there, that's the apartment style accommodation. And like we said, that's a little bit less expensive than the dormitory style accommodation, but you do have to provide your own food and cook for yourself. So I think when choosing your study destination, it's very important to think about the livability aspect and try and find something I think that's comparable, maybe perhaps to what you enjoy here in Canada, but then also something that's a little bit different. And I think Adelaide can certainly offer you that. This is a shot of Henley Beach, one of our beautiful many beaches that the city has to offer. Next slide, thanks. For those of you that are big sporting fans, we don't really do too much baseball or ice hockey in Australia, but we do a lot of cricket and a lot of football. This photo here is of Adelaide Oval, which is where this photo was taken. This is when India and Pakistan were playing in the World Cup a couple of years ago. So this is a beautiful stadium right in the heart of the city centre. And this really put Adelaide on the map, especially in the Asian markets, because this is one of the largest and most watched cricket games in the history of the world. Next slide, thanks. Another shot of the city centre itself. So we have the Torrens River that flows all the way through the city centre, and you can see some of the fantastic buildings. It's not as built up as what you would be used to if you're living in Vancouver or Toronto. This is a smaller city, which means for you as students, you have that nice balance of study and lifestyle. So it's a little bit more affordable, about 30% more affordable than Sydney and Melbourne. Next slide, thanks. So as mentioned, we are the most affordable mainland capital city in Australia. We're the fifth most livable city in the world. So we're in there with Vancouver and Melbourne in the top 10 in the world. I mentioned before around that beautiful study, live and work balance, which is important, and that authentic Australian experience, which I think is really key to being able to get that true international experience. And last but not least, a very safe city. So your families and friends don't need to worry. So I'm not going to go into too much detail about all of our courses. I'm going to talk specifically about any courses that you're interested in. Yes, Adrian, safe from dangerous animals that can kill you too. Absolutely. There's no drop bears or land sharks or anything like that. We are a comprehensive university. We offer over 300 different programs and courses, everything from the arts through to government and international relations, health, law, medicine, nursing, midwifery. University teaches both undergraduate and postgraduate courses. So you can really look into those courses and find something that meets your needs. We have traditionally always had a good number of Canadian and North American students studying at Flinders University, specifically in our medical courses, education courses, and our allied health courses. So what I'd like to do now is hand it over to you for you to ask any specific questions, and I'll do my very best to answer them. If you do have any other questions, probably the best thing for you to do is reach out to the information that's in the chat panel. You're welcome to give the team here at KOM Consultants a call or email on those details there. So what are the other questions that you might have about any specific courses or programs? That's a great question. I'm not sure if you visited our website yet, but there are a range of different requirements that we look for students. Are you interested in our postgraduate program, our MD course, which goes for 4 years? And Adrian, same thing as well. Specific questions regarding loans for Canadians who want to study medicine in Australia. Okay. Ahmed, that's fantastic, the 4-year program. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to provide you with a link, and in fact, for both of you, to our website, which will give you really answers to most of those questions that you're asking now. Okay, so there it is there. And if you go onto this web page, you'll see that there is international graduate entry options. You can see the fees for the programs. You can see different scholarships open. And you can also see the different pathways that are available. So most of our students that will come in will come into the 4-year program, the Doctor of Medicine program. And you'll see, if you click on the academic entry requirements, you'll see that we look for a number of things. One is English language requirements, and if you have already studied in Canada and completed a recognised undergraduate degree, then you would meet that requirement, so no need to worry about that. And then we need to either have a GAMSAT test or an MCAT test. And you'll see advertised on the web page there, we look for about 123 in each of the 4 band scores. So around that score from about 490 to 500 you would see. This is not to say that you'd be guaranteed entry if you got these marks, but this is at least a minimum that we look for. Okay, so that gives you one thing. The GPA as well, if you have a look on that page there, you'll see that what we've done is we've provided you with how we can calculate your GPA, whether you studied a 4 or a 3-year program. If you've studied that, we're looking at a GPA of around about 82%, which is about a 3.3 on a 4 scale. Okay. And once again, we can't guarantee entry if you meet that requirement, but if you have those marks around that 3.3 or so GPA or above, then at least you're going to be relatively competitive to finding your place in the program. You'll also see on this web page that there is an interview box. And so what we do is, if you pass the, say the MCAT or GAMSAT, the GPA weighting, score, sorry, then what we'll do is we'll look at interviewing you at some stage throughout the year. And if you have a look on the website, you'll also see that there are key times that we will interview students and key decision points. There are 2 ways that we like to interview. One is being able to visit you in country, or you're welcome to come and visit us if you like. The second way is by Skype as well. So depending on your location, we'll make the decision. The great thing about Flinders is that we have multiple decision points throughout the year. So you can apply now and we'll be able to let you know soon if you're successful in being able to find your place in an interview. If you're successful in passing each of those elements, the interview component, as well as the GPA and MCAT or GAMSAT scores, English language requirements, all of those things, and you're successful, then you would receive an offer from the university, which hopefully we'll see you accept for our next intake, which is February 2019. Good question. So do international applicants compete with Australian applicants? No, that's not the case, Sarah. That's a great question. We have 2 different allocations. Mind you, though, we don't differentiate in the level of competitiveness between our international and domestic cohorts, but we have an allocated place or allocated places available for international students. Okay. So I guess there is what you would say reserved places or reserved allocation for that. So you're not in the same selection pool, you're in an international selection. Good question. Can I provide some stats on how many students from Canada applied? I don't know the answer to that, unfortunately. I'm sure KOM will be able to provide you some details on their stats of the number of students that perhaps apply through their agency and into different universities in Australia, and maybe inclusive of that being Flinders. But as I don't sit on the selection panel, and in fact the medical the assessment for a medical admissions currently does not sit within my my region. It sits centrally within the international office. I'm not privy to that information at all, but I can say that we do have Canadian students studying with us at the moment. I can also say that we do receive a number of applications from Canadian and North American students. Good question, Adrian. So if I have had my application sent, when should we expect our interviews or offers? Okay, so like I was saying, on that web page that with the link I sent you there, you can see that there is a box that says timeline for 2019 entry. You'll see there that we've got two sets of interviews, with the third one obviously being after November 19 if there are places available. But essentially we've got two decision points. The first one was in April 16th this year, 2018 of course. Then there are interviews in May, which are currently being conducted. And then our next decision point is the 27th of June. So you've got about a month or so from now. If you did want to apply, you'd need to get your application in now, and then we'd let you know if you were successful for interviews in August. Let me know if you can't find that information on that webpage, but you'll see timeline for 2019 entry will give you an answer to that question. Sarah, we have approximately about 30 odd places for international students each year. And that's across both our undergraduate and postgraduate pathway programs. Just to let you know that the number of places that universities offer for international students are sort of restricted. As education providers, we work together to be able to ensure that we can fulfill our own placements, but we don't also take placements from other universities as well, because of course this is something that works both at a state and federal level. Adrian, another good question. Are international students looked at the same as North American and otherwise? Yes, we don't differentiate based on nationality and profile of the student. Like I said, there are two different groups, obviously the domestic cohort and the international cohort, but we don't differentiate between North Americans or students from Hong Kong or Singapore or India or Sri Lanka. That's not taken into account. Residency spots. That's a very good question. Something that I probably can't provide too much detail with. Something which I'd probably prefer if you either talk to KOM about directly, or alternatively, I'd be more than welcome to be able to pass you on to our academic staff to provide more details. My pleasure. Thanks for the good questions. What kind of a medical school curriculum do you offer? What in particular are you looking for, Adrian? I'm just trying to understand your question a little bit more. Absolutely. Problem-based learning is really important. Let me just give you a link there. Yep. All problem-based learning. You would imagine that a medical degree is very, very hands-on. Sarah, you can apply without the MCAT score, but you won't be assessed for the interview without it. So often students may submit their applications and then submit the MCAT afterwards. But if you can ideally send it all in one go, that would be okay. Adrian, just to add to your question and a few other points, Flinders is renowned for its longitudinal style of education. So where possible, if we can, we do look to provide that opportunity for students to be able to engage with patients all the way through their program. So it is problem-based learning, but also that opportunity to be able to engage, I guess, throughout a patient's journey. AC, all right. If you have a good MCAT score, but your GPA is below 3.3, will your application be looked at the very least? I honestly can't answer that question, AC. It's something which I think is probably for you to be able to put a good case forward to the university. I'd imagine if you were, say, 3.29, then perhaps you might be considered, or 3.27 perhaps, but I can't guarantee that. If you were 2.9, then I'd say the answer is probably no. So, you know, but if you have a very strong MCAT score, obviously what we do is we balance things out a little bit where we can. My pleasure, Adrian. I'm glad that's useful. Guys, the links that I'm putting up is probably a great place for you to be able to gain all that information about our program, about the structure of our programs, graduate opportunities, and our alumni. This is a really great resource, this Medicine at Flinders page, something which the university spends a lot of effort and time updating. So I always find out new things whenever I'm looking to find out more information about our programs. Letter of reference, is that what you mean by LOR, Adrian? If so, I'd be more than happy for you to see you submit your application. Hopefully you're putting it through, oh great, letter of reference. Is that from your university? Because if that's the only thing that we're waiting on, then please, yes, submit your application. Professional referee and professor, that's fine. If you can just give us an ETA of when you think you'll receive that, you'd be welcome to proceed. Because what the team will do is they'll have your application sitting there waiting for us. Sarah, that's great. Look, I'd say volunteering work does count. It's certainly a valuable part of your application. It shows us the type of person you are. So the more information you can give us about who you are and what you've done, that would certainly be taken into consideration. I can't say that it holds as much weighting as MCAT or GPA, but it's certainly something which we like to see. It shows a good, well-rounded student. Adrian, we'd love for you to come and visit, and what I'll do is I'll make sure that there are no dangerous animals there. Okay. If you'd like to come and visit or you have any more questions, you're welcome, certainly about questions, if you want a quick response, you're welcome to email me. What I'll do is I'll pop my email address in the, my email address. You are more than welcome to email me. If you've got any specific questions around applying, then I really encourage you to come through KOM Consultants. I'll certainly support you in your application. Luna, hi. Sorry I'm late. What's the internship situation? What did you mean by that, Luna? If you could just expand on your question. And Sarah, I'll wait for the recording. Couldn't hear most of the answers, but thanks a lot. Not a problem, Sarah. Look, if you have any specific questions, once again, welcome to use my email address, or if you like, come through the KOM team here. They're very, very knowledgeable when it comes to Flinders courses and programs, especially around the medicine ones and supporting your applications. Okay. All right, guys, I think that's it from us. Okay, I know the question. Luna, that is a challenge. There are a limited number of intern spots available in Australia. Okay, but what the university does is it works with you and outlines a whole range of different alternative options, so that you've got as many possibilities available when you graduate from the program, if you are unsuccessful in finding an internship spot. So that's not just here in Australia, but also internationally. Okay. Adrian, that's a good question. How does spouse visas work if your spouse is not the same nationality but wants to stay for a period of time? If she's married to you, Adrian, which I guess as your spouse, hopefully she would be, then what that would mean is that she would study. Sorry, she would come on a dependent visa. So under your study visa, she would come in under that. Wouldn't matter if she's a different nationality, as long as there's proof of marriage. And if you are successful in getting a letter of offer from the university, the thing to consider is that you need to make sure that you have overseas health cover that covers you and your partner, as well as any children you might have. You also need to show a little bit more in your expenses, because obviously there'll be more than one of you traveling to Australia. No, not under a study visa, Sarah. In answer to your question, I don't believe that that's the case. Usually parents come on a tourist visa. Good question, Luna. Yes, your spouse is allowed to work up to 20 hours a week or 40 hours a fortnight. Your spouse can work an unlimited number during the holidays as well. And for you on your visa, you are also allowed to work. However, it's very seldom that we would see a med student working as well as studying medicine. Your load, contact hours is too high really to be able to work. 40 hours per fortnight or 20 hours per week. So what that means is that if one week you work 18 hours, the next week you can work 22. Must be my Australian accent or the connection. Sorry about that, Lynn. Oh, okay. 2 weeks, correct. 2 weeks. Yep. Old timely English, yes. Just to summarize a little bit more around okay, do you have any information with Canadian alumni? If you go into that link that I sent through, Adrian, there are some. If you can't find any, then yes, absolutely graduated from medicine, there would be. I can certainly arrange some and get some sent through to you. The other thing is I can speak to KOM. They might have some graduates who have come back here as well. Just to summarize, guys, so if you are successful in finding a place at Flinders University, whether that be, I'll just send you the link. There we go. If you are successful in gaining a place at the university and offer letter, all the information around the cost of the course and the program, the duration, as well as overseas health cover, the amount of money you need to show if you are bringing a partner or a spouse and children, all of that's included in the offer letter. So one great thing about the Australian education system is that we're as transparent as you could possibly be around all of those upfront costs and I guess the requirements that we look from you. Okay. So, yeah, hey, Adrian, that's not a problem at all. That's what we're here for. Like I said, you've got my my email address. You've got access to the KOM team here. If there are any other specific questions, feel free to reach out to us, and you know, hopefully we will see all of you, if not at least one or two of you, join us sometime next year. All right. Thanks very much, guys. I'm going to close off now. All the best and take care. Bye.